There it is. Final score, folks. Colorado State 78, Radford 68, in a very good game tonight in Moby Arena. I'm Steve Ivy. Welcome to Final Score, my post-game show. I have a lot of fun doing these, especially after we win. If you're coming in on the show, I notice there's some people starting to show up. Let me know where you're watching from. Let me know your comments. This is our show. Okay, this might be my channel, but this is our show. I want to make sure we're all discussing what's going on. But a very, very good performance, especially in the first half by the Rams after a struggle in the last game, a struggle to close. Aaron with a win is a win is a win. Aaron watching from West Foco. I'm in Southeast Fort Collins. You know, it was a little bit of a disappointing crowd, but I tell you, the one benefit of a disappointing crowd is I got home in about 12 minutes, and I don't live right next door to Moby Arena. 12 minutes is pretty good getting out of that parking lot and getting home through all the lights on College Avenue. So yeah, let us know where you're watching from. A win is a win is a win. I thought CSU played one of their better halves in the first half. Started a little slowly, got a little traction. Went down 19-14, and then got it going. Here we go. Justin Martinez. Look at this. Watching from Albuquerque, New Mexico, Lobo fan, but also a Mountain West fan. Justin will be doing a final score in about a week and a half when New Mexico comes up to Fort Collins. I'm actually planning a really cool preview show on the Thursday night before the game. I'm hoping to get not just a Colorado State player on the show, but I'm hoping to get a New Mexico player on the show as well. And I haven't talked to Jeff Grammer, but at some point I'll get Grammer on as well. He's a great guy. So good. I'm glad to hear. Let's talk about the game. As I started getting into it, CSU went up 14-10, and then all of a sudden a 9-point run by Radford. And lo and behold, that trailed 19-14. And from there, CSU probably played about their best 10-minute stretch. And next thing you know, they had I believe, about a 14-point lead. I think it was 37-23 before the Radford closed with a bunch of free throws to go in. It was a 10-point game at halftime. I was a little disappointed with the way CSU started the second half. It'll be a learning for them. When you go in down 10 at halftime and you look at what the numbers are and you realize you're getting beat up in the paint, you can bet that your coach talks to you and says, you got to get tougher, you got to get more physical, you got to win all the battles inside, and you got to start scoring at the paint. And that's what Radford started doing. And they pushed CSU around those first 4 minutes or so, first forcing Nico Medved into a timeout. Corey, watching from Butler, Pennsylvania, I know, not bad dealing with those ticky-tack refs, my word. I'll get into that at the end. But CSU, the lead got knocked down to 6, and it kind of went back and forth, up and down, and went down to about 4. A couple of key plays, key baskets. There was a key sequence where Jalen Lake had a great stop on one end and then hit a nice little pull-up jumper in the paint and expanded the lead, I believe, to 8. There was a point where the lead was 6, and CSU was maybe starting to feel a little bit of the pressure. And Ethan Morton, I believe, threw a pass to Kyan Evans. Ethan Morton got the ball underneath and saw Kyan Evans open in the corner. Kyan Evans nailed the 3 ball, and I believe that pushed the lead up to 9. And I don't remember. I don't think Radford got any closer than 6. They might have gotten it to 5 the rest of the way, but CSU closed really well, making free throws. Aaron Harris saying Vern Harris doing Vern Harris things, and then says no relation. Aaron, I'm not sure. Anyway, I have a great picture. Vern Harris is actually a really, really good guy. And he's a good ref. Michael Irving was one of the refs in that game. I don't know who the third ref was. I've never seen him. I'm gonna have to look up who the third ref was in that game because he wasn't very good. He was the one. Scott Brown was his name. Vern Harris, Michael Irving, Scott Brown. I was not impressed with Scott Brown. Touch foul on Nick Clifford. I have no idea what that was. Called a foul on Keyshawn Williams, where actually a couple of fouls on Keyshawn, but one of them where he got up, let the guy got basically underneath the glass, and the guy jumped up, and Keyshawn blocked the shot, and somehow they called a foul. It was pretty amazing. But I wanted to talk about how CSU closed. I talked if you watched my show on Monday morning with Coach Medved when I did my Monday morning cup of coffee show with Brady Hull. I talked about closing, if there were concerns about closing, and Nico talked about the details, taking care of the details, and they were prepared today. They handled the trapping 1-3-1 press very, very well that Radford threw at them in the last 5 minutes to try and get back into the game. There was only one bad pass, but once they solved it, they were able to basically close out the game at the free throw line, and close it. They did. Mbemba and Kyan Evans doing all the scoring, making all the free throws down the stretch. CSU missed one free throw. I remember in the first half, Mbemba, I think, missed on the back of an and one, and then Jalen Crocker Johnson missed a pair of free throws, and all I can remember is everybody making everything. In terms of the leaders today, obviously Nick Clifford is the player. He's the straw that stirs the drink, and you saw what happens when it's hard for him to get a shot off. He struggled to get shots off and get anything clean. He got fouled just as bad as some of those guys from Radford did, and there weren't going to be many calls. But 7 points, did get his 10th rebound. I don't know if anybody noticed. Nick's 10th rebound came on an air ball at the buzzer when the game was 78-68. And I teased him about it. But what was really funny was Kyle Jorgensen was on the floor, I believe, at the same time, and says, "Yeah, Nick stole that one from me." It was kind of fun. Anyway, it was. We saw the leaders. It was Jalen Lake had a really, really good game, and you saw some really, really interesting things down the stretch where you saw Lake in the game basically running the point. They didn't have Kyan Evans in. He was out with 4 fouls, and you had Bourne had been banged up a little bit, and so Keyshawn Williams was in, and Jalen Lake moved a little bit played a little bit of point, and he played a great game. Only had 11 points, but he had 7 assists, which I believe is a career high. So those are the two guys we normally expect to score. We only got 18 points out of those two guys. The scoring came from Keyshawn, Rashawn, and Kyan Evans. Keyshawn Williams is becoming a better and better player every time he takes the floor. We saw the early on. We knew what the kind of player we were getting in terms of athleticism and the ability to score. But more than once, I had a coach say, Keyshawn can really score, but he's got to learn how to do it within the framework of playing team basketball and playing great defense as well. And we're starting to see that show up. His aggressiveness going to the rim. He scored 16 points, basically 7 hoops. One was a perimeter shot that was originally ruled a 3 that was changed to a 2 after a timeout. The other 7 were at the rim or very short pull-up jump shots. He's fearless. He's fierce when he goes to the rim. He had a breakaway dunk. I thought he was going to get teed up, but I think he was staring at the crowd and not at the Radford defender who happened to be trying to inbound the ball. But Keyshawn would be a great nominee for unsung hero. I think he's equally player of the game with the next person I'm going to mention, which was Rashawn Mbemba. I'm going to bring up the box score, 78-68. I wanted to point out a couple of things. Points in the paint. CSU did well in the paint. Radford went after him in the second half, and I don't know what the first half differential was, but I think CSU probably buried him a little bit in the paint in the first half. Ended up 36-34, but the rebounding advantage today, we saw a team that was good on the glass tonight against a pretty good rebounding team. Radford has a reputation for being a good rebounding team. CSU with 35 rebounds to 28 for for Radford. And let's, I didn't pull it up. I'm sorry. I had it ready to go. There it is. My bad. Anyway, 35 to 28 on the glass. A huge, when this team rebounds, this team does well. We know Neek is a great rebounder, but some of the other guys, Keyshawn Williams with 7 rebounds in his 23 minutes. I think that's a career high at CSU, 23 minutes. Crocker Johnson, 4 rebounds in 15 minutes. Mbemba, 6 rebounds and taking a lot of space. But it was a team effort on the glass with 8 of the 9 players getting rebounds. So and did a great job really controlling second chance points. They only had 8 second chance points out of Radford. CSU is not a great second chance point team. They don't get a lot of offensive rebounds. So if they get a stalemate in terms of second chance points, they're going to do awfully well. So fast break points, 18 to 9. I'm going to pull up the CSU box score, and I want to point out one other interesting thing. And this is kind of unusual. You want to talk about an unsung hero, and it doesn't show up other than the pace of the game changed when he was in there. Bowen Bourne, he took a knock early on in his first time on the floor in the first half. And had to leave. It looked like he got a bump on the right arm and had to come out of the game. But Bowen Bourne played 10 minutes today. And I'm a great believer in plus minus in terms of chemistry. Bowen was a plus 14 today in 10 minutes. He was pushing the pace. He had 4 assists. He was finding guys open. He got a great offensive rebound and a little putback 8-foot jumper in the paint. But a lot of it was just his intelligence when CSU got the ball, they pushed the pace and they did it really, really well and created a lot of good open looks. And defensively, he was very, very good. But I don't want to underestimate. You go to the plus minuses. Mbemba and Evans, they had great scoring games, but they were minuses. They had good games. I don't go put my entire stock in plus minuses. But when we went south in the first half, it was when Neek Clifford was on the floor. He came back in. That's when we extended the lead. Neek a plus 12, Jorgensen a plus 12 off the bench in 16 minutes, and he gave us a good 16 minutes. A couple of good rebounds. He only got credited with 1 turnover. I thought he could have had 2 or 3. There were a couple of passes that were fired to him. I think they might have assigned the turnovers to other people, but he failed to catch a couple of balls that were really, really, they were hard passes. He wasn't quite ready for them. But all in all, great balance scoring. As I said, 16, 16, 15 from the 3 leading scorers, 11 from Jalen Lake, who averages 14 a game, only 7 from Neek Clifford, 6 for Jorgensen, and then 3s and 2s. Basically all 9 guys scored, and that's what we need to see. Bench points. We didn't get the majority of our points from the bench, but we did very, very well from the bench. If you look at it, we outscored them from the bench. 27 to 19. And they're a team that plays their bench a lot. You look at the number of guys that played. They play 4, 8. They played 11 guys. So for us to outscore them on the bench is saying a lot. So Bourne and Crocker looking a little lost on defense today. There was actually 2 guys that lost themselves today in the second half, and it happens. I will tell you the defense was very good. I went to practice yesterday, and you learn how good a coaching staff this is when you look at the level of detail they get into when they're going into the scout of how to defend the other team. They never felt like they were. I never felt like they were out of position. There was 2 plays in the second half, and both times, and one of them was on Bourne, and one of them was on Ethan Morton, where Bourne and Lake didn't communicate well enough, and there was a switch, but obviously they got confused, and the guy Bourne was supposed to switch onto had a wide open 3 and made it. And then a few minutes later, Morton was out on the perimeter. I forget who he was with. It might have been Lake again. And he called a switch, but it was premature. It was before the ball crossed over, and the guy heard him call the switch. Ethan started going with the other guy, and the guy just took one step to the left and shot a wide open three. Not mistakes physically. Those are communication errors. Those are easy things to fix. I don't think they looked that lost today. I thought they played. I thought everybody played pretty well defensively. The other thing I wanted to talk about, and when I talk about how much I love this coaching staff, when you watch how hard they work on the other team's baseline out of bounds plays, if they never got what they wanted to run from the baseline out of bounds plays until the very, very end when they ran one with like 10 seconds to go. And that's only because it just happened. The guy was actually defended and shot over a high hand. So all in all, let's see. Here's Corey. What in the world was who in the world was scorekeeping tonight? Morton, no rebounds in the first. He had a defensive rebound off. I don't know. I'm trying to remember the defensive rebound. I definitely remember an offensive rebound. So Clifford got screwed by the scorekeeper too. He might have been. I don't know. I do want to get into the officiating a little bit. I thought in the second half, I already talked about a couple of calls. I knew that was going to happen. You could just feel it was coming. They, for some reason, decide to call these little touch fouls. They made a couple of strange calls in the first half. They called a block on Keyshawn Williams in the first half where he leaned his chest into the guy and the guy shoved him over, and they called a block on Keyshawn. And that was absolutely ridiculous. There was another call. I'm trying to remember who they called it on a baseline drive, and it was just awful. And then in the second half, little things here. And all I wanted to do, I wish I could interview a ref right now, and I wish I could interview Michael Irving, not Vern Harris. Michael Irving, who has a reputation for being, an NCAA tournament level ref, refs a lot of West Coast games, lives in Southern California. And I want to know when he refs a game in Viejas Arena, if he calls touch fouls on San Diego State like that. And if he says he does, I'd call him the biggest freaking liar on the planet. San Diego State gets away with murder in their home arena. We do not get away with anything in our arena. In fact, it goes the other way. They call more fouls on us. And I thought it was just disappointing what he chose to do. Aaron, look at this comment. I love Vern Harris chirping at the fan at the end of the game. I've shown a picture I have on X. Not all of you have seen it. I have a picture of me with Vern Harris from Ptarmigan Country Club. Vern was playing with a member out there. He was a couple of holes behind me, and I happened to see him over the ninth. The ninth hole is ninth tee box is borders right near the fourth green, and there was Vern putting, and I went walking over to him, and it's Vern. I'm going to give my camera to your partner here, and he's going to take a picture of you giving me the heave ho off the green. And so I have a wonderful picture. I'll have to show it one of these days. Bring it up on my stream on one of these streams of Vern giving me the heave ho at my own country club. He's a good guy. He's kind of hitting the end of his. He's the end of the year. Second foul and third foul on Morton. The third foul, definitely, Corey. The third foul was ridiculous. I have no idea what that call was, but there was barely any contact, and it was the kind of thing where you go, I just don't know. You just shake their head. But if you notice, the way these refs make friends with other coaches, the ref standing in front of the other coach is the one making the calls. And they chirp at the ref. They'll say, they'll say, they'll call out the foul for him. And the guy feels the obligation to do it. Our coach doesn't referee the game for the referees. He doesn't chirp at him when the ball is in front of him and there's a little contact. And we get screwed because of what the other coach does. Trust me, that other coach was making all those calls if you saw where the whistle was coming from. And I thought, there's another call. Let me get on Michael Irving for another call. I don't know if you remember the play where Vern Harris was underneath the basket. Michael Irving was standing over in front of the Radford bench, and a guy for Radford ran kind of a screen and roll, and he threw the ball over everybody, and it went out of bounds. And Vern Harris was kind of blocked, and he didn't see it. And he turns to Michael Irving, who has the call, And Michael Irving, looking straight down the line at that play, looks up and says, "I didn't see it." And it was his call. And the third ref had to step in. And luckily, they ruled it for CSU. But it was unbelievable. Michael Irving wasn't even watching the game, and it was his call. And that was horrendous, which tells you where his head was at. So I'm just going to stop right there. I usually don't bitch about the refs. It's easy to bitch when you win. CSU did not get calls tonight. Lee saying Eustace would have been tossed in this game. Nah, he would have done something stupid though. Nah, he wouldn't. I don't think so. He really got tossed. He only got tossed up in Boise that one time. So here we go. Jacqueline Russo just got back to Loveland. I hope you had a safe ride home. Glad you're watching from Loveland. Thank you for chirping in. We appreciate it. So anyway, getting back to the thrown a Diet Coke. Yeah, that's more like it. He would have wouldn't have been tossed, but would have thrown a Diet Coke, or at least we would have had a wonderful foot stomp. Nico was just throwing his hands up. I think he was flabbergasted, but I think he realized it's one of those games. There's no reason to get emotional with those guys. He felt like his team was in control, so which they were. I would go on. I would basically say, I would tell you that of all the games I've been to in Moby Arena, I thought the first half was easily CSU's best first half of the year. This was a good team. Radford. Their only losses were to Clemson, to I think was it Cincinnati, two top 25 teams, and then they lost to Utah the other night in by about 16 points, 18 points in Salt Lake City. CSU was doing a number on them and then ran out of a little bit of focus. It'll be a learning. We're not quite as good as those teams yet, but I think we saw a lot of progress in that first half. Oh, here we go. I was following this game. Interestingly enough, it was 60-60 at the under 4 timeout. I looked at it, and then but I was too wrapped up in the CSU game. But the Aggies lost their first game to UCSD at Logan. I think they might lose their second game over the weekend when they visit. They go to Moraga, California, and play St. Mary's. I think they're going to have trouble with the physicality of St. Mary's. Just to let you know, UCSD is a top 100 team. Actually, they might even be top 75. They'll be top 75 after that game. They gave San Diego State a really, really good game, and they were in the game. Tom won't be happy. My partner Tom. We'll talk about that a little bit on. We'll have Tom on Saturday night. Tom and I will do a game. I'll do the CSU Nevada game, and I'm not sure what game we're going to do on Saturday. What Mountain West game? We may choose the CSU Nevada game. I don't know. We may do it. I may do a combo final score Crackers College Hoops CSU, and then may do a tonight in the Mountain West. We haven't decided yet, but Tom won't be happy. I don't know if anybody noticed. UNLV almost pulled off an upset at Dayton. Dayton's a top 30 team. That was easily would have been one of the best wins for the Mountain West. A road win at Dayton. UNLV had a 2-point lead with 25 seconds to go and gave up, I believe, an and one bucket and free throw with 8 seconds to go and lost by 1, 66-65. Corey, Steve, are we taking too many threes? He would tell you, Corey, he would say, he would say, I want to score more in the paint. One of the things, if you notice tonight, and I saw this in practice yesterday, like I said, I wish all you people had the time to go to a practice. But the one thing he's been disappointed with, Corey, is they have not been creating. They don't really have the type of team that can create a lot of easy twos at the bucket, but they're really working hard at making that happen with the ball movement and the cutting. And if you watch, the ball movement was pretty good today. I watched some drills in practice yesterday where they're running 25-second shot clocks, and he told the team, you're not allowed to shoot. You're not allowed to shoot until you make 10 passes. And so the ball had to be flying around in order for them to get a shot off. So I think the answer is we have been taking a few too many threes, but I think it's coming. I think today We saw more scoring at the rim. We saw Keyshawn for sure scoring at the rim. We saw Rashawn scoring at the rim. We saw Kyle Jorgensen getting into the paint a couple of times. So yeah, here we go. Jorgensen bullied at the rim, but a year of strength work. We had a few guys get bullied at the rim today, and we get that a little bit. One of the things that I wish we'd do a little more, when there's times when we look like we're getting bullied and we're actually really, really playing good defense, and we're getting guys to pull to maybe backing somebody down, and then they stop the dribble. And when that happens, there has to be somebody jumping at him at that time. You just can't let that person just stand there with the ball. Once that dribble is gone, you need to jump another defender, a help defender. And I'm sorry, we're not seeing enough help underneath. It's not just that we're getting bullied; we're not getting the help we need to provide to guys underneath. And so, yes, some bullying, but some of it is on the other players too. Our help defense was not as good as it needed to be today, and we're going to need to see that improve if we want to get even better in the paint. I thought that was one of the things that hurt us in the second half. So just an opinion of mine. But, Corey, that was a really good question. And CSU's MO, you'll hear it a million times from me, and you'll hear it a million times from Nico. Like the three, love the paint. He wants the ball in the paint. The only one that other than Mbemba is good at catching the ball in the paint. He had that one really good play where he went coast to coast, and I'm yelling, pass the ball. And he saw an opening and just went coast to coast and laid it in. I think you saw his athleticism on that play. But Keyshawn Williams is the only guy who can consistently get to the rim. He's very crafty, very nifty. They ran a couple of out of bounds plays where the other team really did a great job of taking Neek out on those plays. And Keyshawn got the ball in the corner and drove to the basket. Back-to-back baseline inbounds plays that he scored on. It was the exact same thing. So here we go. Hey, Jorg did well in the first half, disappeared in the second. Effort on defense, that's not a conversation for tonight. It was a tough matchup. They've got some older guys. If you look at their lineup, I had one of the guys, I had somebody ask me if I recognized a certain guy, number 7, and I said, no, I didn't, but I do recognize number 11. They had a guy named Jarvis Moss who spent the first 2 years of his career at Stanford. He recruited out of the great state of North Carolina and spent 2 years at Stanford. He's a good basketball player. We did a good job on him. We held him to 4 for 13 shooting. A lot of that was Lake. I think there was some Clifford and some Morton on him as well, but they were really, really good. Good win. Williams looks great coming off the bench. He needs to play more. Mbemba is a beast. We've all talked about Rashawn and the importance of him playing more minutes. The last game is the first time in his CSU career where he's played more than 15 minutes and we've lost. He played, I believe it was 24 minutes tonight, and you can see what a difference he made. Even though he was in the plus minuses, he was a little bit of a minus. His physical presence, his ability to finish at the rim is really, really important. Keyshawn looks great coming off the bench. Is he ready to be a starter? I don't know. He got virtually starters minutes today. Let's be honest. He got 23 minutes, 1, 2, 3, 4, the 5th most minutes on the team. Morton got 22, the 6th most. So you're seeing a guy that's playing nearly starters minutes. He's playing almost like a 6th starter. And so they're starting to figure that out. Like I said, Bourne played fewer minutes today. He took a knock, and that knocked him out in the first half. He came back. I did ask him at the end of the game if he was okay, and he said he was. But we're going to need some more good minutes out of Bowen as well. Our guard play was actually we had one of our better games with our guards. We had a good game with our bigs too. I mean, all in all, the team balance, that's the way this team needs to look. We were scoring at all positions. We were rebounding well. The first half defense, I would argue, is as good a defense as you're gonna throw at somebody. It was only some late free throws that got them over 25 points. I didn't look at the number of possessions, but I'll bet you they were I'll bet you they operated at about 0.8 points per possession in that first half. So here's another comment. I like the lineup a little more tonight. Hopefully they can play like this in conference. Turnovers seemed to keep the game a little close in the second half. Some of the turnovers, I just think we weren't quite ready for the passes. There were a few of them like that. I remember Neek throwing a couple of them, one to Ethan in the first half. Ethan had made a cut, and I think he was looking to get position on an offensive rebound. That happens sometimes. And Neek fired him a pass, and it was a tough pass to handle, but you need to handle those. And then in the second half, I remember Jorgensen getting one underneath that he fumbled. I remember Jorgensen taking a pass that was up high where he had to stretch for it from Kroc, who had penetrated and then dished out. And they were looking to do that kind of stuff today. And he threw it a little bit high, but Kyle, I don't think he was quite ready for it. They need to catch the ball a little better, for sure. Here we go. Nevada will be super tough matchup as Davidson, very strong 4, and Sanders 6'9" point. It's going to be an interesting game. Nevada, they are hot and cold. They will be really, really ready for their Mountain West opener. That's for sure. But they've had some games at home. They got beat by double digits by a decent Washington State team. They trailed South Dakota State by 7 points. They trailed VCU by 17 points in the first half before they came back. And they were not any better against VCU than we were for the first 30 minutes. We were a better team. We didn't close tonight. I think I was very encouraged by the way we closed. I started seeing what I expect to see. We still need, obviously, to get better. As I pointed out, a couple of communication errors, calling switches or not communicating switches that probably cost us 6 points there. And then maybe a little bit of help underneath when the opponent picks up the ball and looks to maneuver in the paint 6 feet away. You can slap double teams and just start knocking guys around at that point. So, Corey, look at this. Corey's my buddy. Got 9 holes in today before the weather turns. Corey, we've had an unbelievable December in Colorado. All the golf courses are open. My son works at a 9-hole muni. He's an assistant pro at a 9-hole muni in Fort Collins, and they get 100 players a day on that golf course. The weather's so good. So they're doing record number of rounds. Lee with the comment, Neek will have to be more aggressive looking to score. I thought he played with a lot of patience today, and I appreciate that. He didn't take any crazy shots. He made a really nice pull-up jumper, made a really, really important three, didn't force anything, got some really quality rebounds, and his defense was good. They called a foul on him too. The foul they called on him was just absolutely crazy, where he might have put a finger on a guy. He's an elite defender. I have no idea. Corey with this, remember Clifford, Morton, Lake, Williams lineup was interesting. You know something? They wanted Kyan Evans had 4 fouls, I think, at the time, and that's a lineup. Kyan would have been in, I think, at that point, but you saw the versatility of Jalen Lake at that point. Jalen Lake moved more into the point guard role there. 2 years ago, he would not have been able to perform that role. He's really, really upped his game in terms of his ball handling and his distribution. Like I said, I believe that was a career high tonight with 7 assists. He played an extremely mature game, missed a few open threes, but took nothing but good shots and got into the paint when he needed to. So, yeah, I would agree that was an interesting lineup. I think it was more out of necessity. I think you saw Evans come in at the end for the last couple of minutes with the 4 fouls. I think they wanted him in there instead of Keyshawn. The most athletic lineup by far. I would argue there's athleticism when Kroc is on the floor as well. Kroc struggled a little bit today. One of the things, and I can tell you, he's a really quality player. One of the issues with him really getting traction is that all of his practice in the summer was at the 5 position because we had injuries to Mbemba, and we had injuries to Jorgensen, and we had injuries to Joppa, and Jorgensen was a freshman as well. So illness and and injuries. And Kroc was the only guy that could really learn the 5. And so that's where he worked. Well, Mbemba's back, Jorgensen's back, and lo and behold, Jalen Crocker-Johnson has moved to the 4 position. And it's not a natural position for him. And it's a position that he's got to learn. And he's learning it. He sometimes struggles defensively on the perimeter. He has to guard the perimeter a little bit. He's getting better at that. He needs to recognize, and he did today, one of the, I don't know if you noticed it in the second half. I mean, he did hit an important 3, but he had a chance. He had an open 3 and a guy came out with a wild closeout and he drove hard to the basket and got fouled. He missed the 2 free throws, but that's the kind of play he has to recognize. He has the ability to put the ball on the floor with shot fakes and stuff. He's got to work on his positioning and getting open looks down low from the 4 position, similar to what Joel Scott would do last year. But it's a learning thing for him. I would argue that we're just as athletic or more athletic when he and Mbemba are on the floor with Clifford and Lake and Evans rather than Morton. Morton is a great defender. Morton is a high IQ player. Have you ever seen worse free throw form attempted than that Radford kid? You know, it wasn't just the form. I don't know if you noticed the amount of time he took, but I started counting from the stands. I was hoping you could hear me count 1001, 1002, and I stopped counting at 8, and he hadn't shot, and I was trying to get the referee's attention. Yes, it was the worst form. And I explained, I have some really good fans that sit in front of me. And I said, you know, one thing, and they look at me and said, well, he's making them. And I said, he's a terrible free throw shooter. I said, that guy will never be in the end of a game with 30 seconds to go because the other team's going to foul him. That's just the way it goes. And I said, you know, there is a science. There's not just an art to free throw shooting. There's a science. And the great free throw shooters, all you got to do is watch them. And Bowen Bourne is a perfect example. I go back to Wes Eichmeyer, who played for us a little over 10 years ago. And the great free throw shooters, and this is the science of it, you don't stare at the rim. You just take the ball, you kind of look down at the ball, you look up at the rim, and you shoot. You don't focus on the rim for 5 seconds. You focus on the rim for a quick second, and then you shoot. Your eyes adjust weirdly when you stare at the rim. You're better off shooting from the physical, the muscle memory from 15 feet than you are staring at the rim. So it's a really, watch Bowen Bourne shoot free throws. He just catches the ball, looks up and shoots it, and it goes in. He's missed, I think he's missed maybe 1 free throw this year, maybe none. I can't remember. And here we go. Corey, I've seen a lot of ball, and I'm not sure I've ever seen such a thing. It was bad, but we did have a guy. Aaron points out Teal Daniels flashbacks. Teal was a guy who was just not quite as big as Rashawn Mbemba, probably an inch shorter, probably 20 pounds lighter. But I love Teal. Teal was a great guy. Was a graduate assistant here for a little bit. Great guy, tough guy, set great screens, great rebounder. Couldn't shoot a free throw. I think he was probably a 40% free throw shooter. Here's some other guys: David Turcotte, Eddie Hughes. Obviously, Zay was good. We had some other good ones as well. But Eichmeyer was a 90+% guy. If you watch Bowen Bourne, Bowen is a 90+% guy. Zay in the G League is shooting, I believe, 95% in the G League. So he can obviously shoot him as well. So hey, I'm gonna wrap up. Player of the game. I don't have a banner for this. I'm gonna go with both Rashawn and Keyshawn. Unsung hero, Kyan Evans making free throws down the stretch, hitting a big 3. He was not having. He had a quiet game, and then he lit it up from 3. You know, he missed that 3, but we got an offensive rebound. The ball came back to him, and he buried that 3. And all of a sudden, I thought he played with amazing confidence. I thought his defense was very, very good today. In terms of guarding the ball, he did a great job too. So I'll call him my my unsung hero. But all in all, I thought just a great performance. I am very, very pleased. I saw a step in the right direction after what we saw at CU a couple of games ago, and then what we saw as we closed against VCU, getting beat on the offensive boards and just getting beat down the stretch and not being able to do anything well. I think. I gotta share a funny story too. I love this team. When I go to practice, there's some things they do that are a lot of fun. And if any of you guys watched the game on Saturday, you might recall CSU ran a play after a timeout, and Jalen Lake missed a wide open layup. And everybody goes, "How the hell did he miss that layup?" And everybody, you almost start laughing at it, because he doesn't miss layups, right? He's wide open. And so yesterday in practice, Nico called that play in practice against the scout team, and they ran it, and Lake made the layup, and everybody rushed to him and high-fived him and started having fun with him. And it was if you want to talk about team together, that was it. They love Jalen. They love Jalen. He's obviously an important player on this team, but it was also Nico having fun with it. They knew it was an aberration. They know he won't miss that important stuff. But here's Corey. That's exactly how the VCU should have gone. I agree with that. We talked about that, like I said, on my show on Monday in closing, and Nico talked about the details. No silly turnovers, getting rebounds. We did a good job getting the important rebounds. We did have, I think, one bad turnover down the stretch. I think we had an over and back that we threw away. But all in all, making the free throws, we handled the press smartly. I thought anytime you beat a press with a dunk or a trap with a dunk, that usually is the absolute answer, and the other team loses all interest in the press. And at that point, it just stops at that point. Even though they keep doing it, they know they're going to get dunked on every time after that happens. So I think you're absolutely right. Nevada is going to be a very, very big game. I will talk a little bit about that game on my Thursday night show. I'm going to do some fun things. I'm going to try and get, unfortunately, the team has 2 practices on Thursday and is traveling on Thursday to Reno. So I'm going to have a hard time doing having a live interview, but I'm going to try and do a pre-record. I approached Keyshawn Williams, and we're going to try and do a pre-record in the next couple of days. So keep an eye for that. And then if you follow me on Twitter, Aaron Harris, good buddy, who I've had on my Final Score show. Aaron talked about Mount Rushmore of Christmas movies, and I am going to do my Mount Rushmore of Christmas movies, my top 4. Aaron had a bracket with a 64 movie bracket, and you can share the results of that bracket with us on Thursday night, Aaron. Come join us. But I will intersperse, and I'm probably gonna get copyrighted. I'm determined. I'm gonna show clips from those movies, YouTube clips from those movies, and there'll probably be copyright violations left and right. And quite frankly, I don't care. So we'll try and do a pre-record on Thursday, and we'll try and do we'll do our 4 top movies. Hell yeah, says Aaron. You better be there, buddy. Everybody better be there on Thursday night. This has been great, folks. Thanks for chipping in. As I said, this is our show. The comments are great. Corey, I wish we could get you out to Moby to a game. It would be fun. You could sit with me. My wife, I could get you in cheap. My wife comes to the games, but she had back surgery, and so she sits in the handicap section because she has a hard time in the seats where we sit 7 rows right behind Nico. She just can't sit there. So she doesn't sit with me during the game. The seat is always open next to me. I have great people with me, people who've been there for years and years, and we have a lot of fun. Corey, I wish you could join us. So, but thanks for joining us from Butler, Pennsylvania. Thank you all for joining us today. Once again, final score: Colorado State 78, Radford 68. Keyshawn Williams and Rashawn Mbemba, players of the game, leading the way with 16 points, 13 rebounds between them. Kyan Evans, unsung hero, with a career-high 15 points and 4 assists. Everybody chipped in. Team effort, team together. Thanks, everybody. We'll see you on Thursday night.